Well, hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to Once More with Abby and Claire. I would be Abby. This would be Claire. We know this is not your first time at the rodeo, but I'm going to just start by giving a brief. We're kind of sorry. We're both a little bit under the weather and
Just
a
a
little
little.
off this week, but we couldn't put this one off because they're
Not
two
this
great
one. Too
episodes.
important, these two episodes. Far too important.
It's so good. So we are covering season 2, episode 21, Becoming, part 1. So again, it's a two-parter. I'm glad we didn't have to split this up.
Yeah,
It's
that would
kind
have
of
been terrible.
cool. We see a bit of Angel's past from when he was human, outside a pub in Ireland with one of his friends that doesn't hold the liquor as well, and he passes out, and Angel looks off into the distance and sees a beautiful, elegant woman, with the big dress and clearly a lady, as it were.
Yes.
We know by looking at her that it's Darla. So we have an idea of what's going to happen, as we do know that Darla was Angel's sire from a past episode. So, he comes up to her with this. So I must ask myself what a lady of your station doing in a town with a reputation such as this one has, which I think is just a fancy way of saying what's a nice girl like you doing in a
It is
place like
definitely a
this.
fancy way of saying that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. I do have to say two things about that. One, he is flirting and giving it his all. Two, the man does a terrible Irish accent. It's
Oh,
painful.
it's
It's
painful.
it's
It's
painful.
it
I
is very
really
painful, I
wish
must be honest.
I really wish they would have rather not even try. But hey, what are you gonna do? So, he asks her where she's from. She gives him the everywhere, the mysterious, and he says, I've never been anywhere. And she says, I could show you things. And he's like, yeah, no, I really want to see what you want to show me. And so she tells him she'll show him things he's never seen. He says, show me the world, and she bites him, um, and then does the whole slice on the chest, and then
Yeah.
kind of
It's very classic.
motorboats him a little bit with the blood on her chest, which we
Yeah.
enjoy. Um, this episode jumped around a lot, so now we fast forward to the now time, and Angel is watching Buffy patrol in the cemetery, and she kills one vampire, and as she's going to kill the second vampire, she's like, take a message to Angel that I'm done waiting and I'm going to bring the fight to him, and blah blah blah. And then the vampire just attacks her, so she has to kill him. And so she says, I guess I'll just have to tell him myself. But then Xander sits up. We didn't even know if he was with her on patrol,
Yeah,
but he
you just
gets
don't see
knocked
it, do
out a
you?
lot. Like, oh, it's Tuesday. Xander got knocked out. She tells him, you don't have to patrol with me. She just wants this over. She wants to take him out. She's done. She's done messing around. Too many people have been hurt.
Yeah.
And so then we jump to a museum curator, and I always, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a paleontologist, and I love those little brushes they use to
Hell yeah.
delicately dust
Perfect.
off the. And then Giles comes in, and the man that was with the woman curator, his name is Doug Perrin. He's played by Jack McGee. He
Yes.
tells Giles, oh, it's nice to meet you. I hear you're like the leading authority of obscure relics and blah blah blah. And Giles is like, well, I don't know about that, but okay. Um, and it's this like giant box, and it's got these carvings on it. And Giles says something like he can tell it immediately predates any colony he's familiar with, because Giles is genius. Um, and he's looking, and he sees this seam, and he asks him, have you tried to open it yet? And the guy said, I didn't realize there was
Yeah.
an opening. He kind of moved the dust away. He thought it was just a solid box. So he's like, you want to open it? And Giles is like, before we open it, let me take a copy of these here symbols and text back and see if I can translate this. And Mr. Perrin says, you don't want to be surprised? And Giles is like, as a rule, no.
No.
This is Hellmouth we're talking about. So and now we jump to the Scoobies, and Xander's got his fish sticks, and he's reenacting the last night's
It's
adventures
pretty fun.
to the Scoobies. No, you die, die, die. And Buffy, she mentioned something like finals are she hasn't even studied, and Willow tells her, I'm going to help you. We're going to pass this come hell or high water. And even Cordelia gives her a compliment and says, like, you really got the teaching bug. And it's kind of impressive. Willow really loves teaching. You could see it brings out a lot.
Yeah, she loves it.
Xander says something effective like that was almost a compliment. And
that was
then they
very nearly a compliment.
Cutesy, tickly thing. And she's like, you got fish hands. And then Snyder walks up and he's being a douche and he's like, he says, Ms. Rosenberg, is there a shortage of seats? And she's like, not that I'm aware of. And then she realizes she's sitting on Oz's lap. And so he tells them like something like he doesn't want to run a brothel or something. He's not running an orgy.
Or a brothel or something. It's a classroom.
Yeah. So he's such a creep. But when Snyder's leaving, Cordelia says she calls him a tiny, impotent Nazi with a bug up his butt the size of an emu. And I got to give her props for that. Because, a tiny, impotent Nazi is so fitting. And again, with this episode, we jump around a lot. So we jump to London, 1860. And we see a human Drusilla in her church. And she is as pure as they come. God-fearing girl. And as she's about to go into the confessional, we see on the priest side, the priest is being murdered, as that happens. Yeah. And so then Angel is in the other side, and he pretends to be the priest with a terrible Irish accent. And she says, I'm so sorry. I've been having these visions. My mother thinks that I'm cursed and blah, blah, blah. And I want to be good and I want to be pure. And that seeing things is an affront to the Lord, but she's not doing it on purpose. No. And Angel says something like, don't worry, God loves all creatures, even little devil children like you or something. Yeah. And he makes her do 10 Hail Fathers and an act of contrition, which doesn't seem, that difficult. And he lets her go. But you can tell immediately he is enamored with her innocence and her purity. And he's have to have that. So then we jump to Drusilla today. And she comes in and Spike's in his chair. And she says, I met an old man. I didn't like him. He got stuck in my teeth. And it was just like, she's so weird. And the moon has started whispering all sorts of dreadful things. And she's having one of her visions. Something terrible is coming. It's at the museum. So she's super excited. Angel's super excited. Spike is angry as usual.
Yeah, it's a great actual little.
And because Spike says something like, did you, or Angel says, did you see that all in your little head? And Spike goes, nah, she read it in the paper, dude. Like it's on the front page of the paper.
It's so great.
Mysterious obelisk unearthed. That's what's been whispering to me. And so we jump around a lot. And Willow is tutoring Buffy. She is an amazing teacher, as Buffy says. She's Buffy's down on herself that this is just, how is she ever going to use any of this stuff and blah, 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 my life. And Willow gives her the whole, don't sell yourself short. You could do anything you want to do, the whole teacher thing. And she's like, wow, you really are a great teacher.
She's great, I know.
And so she's like, all right, we're going to focus. And Buffy goes, okay. And she puts her pen down and it rolls off her little trapper keeper and slides down between the two.
We've been waiting for half a season nearly.
Exactly. So then she goes, oh wait, she grabs it, and as she comes up, Willow is still kind of talking to her, and she's like, she has this deja vu, and she's like, I see it perfectly, and she puts the pen back down, and it does the same thing, and it rolls down, and this time she looks and she picks up the floppy disk, and your heart is in your stomach, and she says, oh, must be Miss Calendar's, and she says, well, it's not Willow's. She knows it's not hers, but she pops it in the computer to see, she's not sure if it's morbid or not, but she wants to see what it is. And they both realize that it is the spell to give Angel back his soul. That Miss
It's the
Carter had
curse,
completed
basically.
the translation. Yes, the curse. We jump back again, this time to the Romanian woods of 1898. And this is the moment
Great
where,
scene.
and I realize how much and I hate to use the word gypsy, but they use it themselves. And we know now that's considered derogatory. But it's cultural at that time. So I'm just putting it out there
it's
that please don't
cultural at
get
that
upset.
time, and I don't personally find it offensive, but our
I
country has
don't.
different offensive words. Bearing in mind, I'm Roma, as you know, in bloodline, so I don't personally find it offensive. But in our country, it's actually less offensive than other terms we would use.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes
If
sense.
that makes any sense to
So
you.
it does. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there that I'm not using that term
No,
offensively.
no,
But
and I would agree. We're not using it for cultural appropriation. And as someone who is actually Roma, it's used as a term that it's actually the portraying in the story.
Exactly. So it is the Romanian woods, and you see the funeral of the young girl, the one that was most important to the village that Angel had killed. And what I noticed is how much she looks like Drusilla when I saw her lying there, that I had to rewind it and go, wait, I didn't mess that up, did I? And you hear the old woman putting the curse on him.
Yeah.
And when it hits and he's like there, and the man tells him, like, you're gonna live and you're gonna remember everything you did, and that weight of that soul comes crashing back on him, because everybody knows vampires are bastards. So like he just spent the last
no
so when was
no
he
soul,
changed?
that's the whole point.
Exactly, he was changed in I forget what year now, but it's quite a while that he's been a vampire, and
I have
she's
that
done
here
some
somewhere.
things that weren't so good. And now it's 1898, and he's been cursed, and he starts remembering all those terrible things he has done. And we flash back to Buffy and Willow telling Giles that they think Miss Calendar had actually completed the translation of the curse, and that they think it would have worked. And Xander, although I get where he's coming from, he's just such a douchebag. He's saying, oh, great. So, like, he killed her, but you're going to get your boyfriend back. So that makes everything okay. And maybe he should just stay the way he's done, and he just needs to die. And
We're showing around 1860.
that he was changed. So then it's
Yes.
1898 that
Around
he was given.
18, late 1800s, we're guessing at what I've got written down for now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we know that 1860 is when he saw Drusilla, and he was already a vampire.
So we're looking at that area.
Okay.
That's what it's saying here, but I think we could take it slightly further back.
Yeah, I'm sure if I looked it up, I didn't even think to look it up, to be honest.
No, I didn't, I'll be honest.
So, Giles says, it's a start, but this involves a higher level of black magic that he's really privy to. And then Willow steps in, and again, foreshadowing, which we won't discuss now, and says, I've been going through her files, and I've been researching black arts for funsies, because that's what we do. Educational fun, of course. And she really thinks she has it in her to do the spell. And Giles tells her that channeling such magic could open up a door that she might not be able to close. And again, this is a big foreshadowing.
I've literally got wrote in huge letters, prophetic. It's like that is just a look at things to come, isn't it, really?
But for those sweet, naive people that have not watched on further, we may not know what happens. Xander again steps in and says, who cares? He should die. You want to forget all about Miss Calendar's murder so you can get your boyfriend back. And at this point, Buffy just can't. Like, she walks out. They're all just staring at Xander like, what just came out of your mouth? We're back at the museum with Mr. Perrin, and he hears whispering, like, from the obelisk. The box is whispering at him. And as he goes up to it, there's Drusilla behind him, and she drains him. And Angel's like, Drew, save me some, because la, la, la. They're so cute.
um,
Um,
quick thing, Angel. It was 15. Sorry, 1753.
1353, really?
17.
Oh, 1753. That
53.
makes much more sense.
He met
Okay.
Darla 1753.
Okay, so at that point he had been a vampire for almost 150 years, so he had done some damage. That makes a lot
Yeah,
a lot of
he
sense.
had done a lot by that time.
Yeah. Buffy's at her house. She's being all sentimental with the claw ring that Angel had gotten her. That we know from, she has pensive face, as she might say, and
Pensive face, smell the fart acting.
when she's out on patrol, and who should surprise her? Which I gotta say, it takes guts to surprise a Slayer, and the
Doesn't
only one to
it?
do that would be another Slayer. And we
Yeah.
welcome back Kendra, the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, I absolutely love Kendra.
Do you? I go back and forth with Kendra. She's beautiful. I just think she's hysterical. I wish we would have gotten a little more out of her, which
Yeah,
I'm
I feel
hoping.
we were cheated. I
Yeah,
feel there
bet.
was a lot more to be had with her.
I
Definitely.
bet. So Buffy's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, wait, let me guess. Your watcher told you the very dark power is coming to
There's a
Sunnydale.
great power rising in
A
Sunnydale. Yeah.
great power is rising in Sunnydale. And she's like, yeah, that's pretty much close.
Yeah, that's
Um,
about it. Yeah.
and one of my favorite lines is they bring the giant box back to the mansion, and Spike's like, it's a big rock. I don't have a rock that big. Can't
I
wait to
can't
tell
wait to
my
tell my
friends
friends
they
about
don't
Big
have a
Bang
rock
Rocket.
that big.
It's so good.
So we find out that Akathla is the demon that came forth to swallow the world. Now, this is Angel telling this. He was killed by a virtuous knight who pierced the demon's heart before he could draw breath and perform the act. So before that happened, Akathla was turned to stone and buried where neither man nor demon would want to look. So they open up the box, as vampires were wont to do, and there is Stone Akatla in there with a sword in his chest, as promised. Spike says something like, "Let me guess." Someone pulls out the sword, and wackiness ensues. And Angel tells him only someone who is worthy can pull out the sword, and he will swallow the world, and every living creature on the planet will go to hell. He says, my friends, we're about to make history end. And it's pretty ominous. We jump again to Giles, who's on the phone with the museum and told that the artifact is missing and that the curator's been murdered by vampires. So Giles explains again what we already know, that in one breath the demon will create this vortex and it will suck everything on earth into this demon dimension, whether it be what we know of as hell or just a demon dimension. And really, what's the difference? And any non-demon,
we have
no matter what.
discussed those outcomes in Buffy, but I think further on the difference of like different dimensions and stuff becomes a lot more apparent. And no spoilers, but it's explained a lot more. I do feel, and it could be anywhere. It's not necessarily hell. They describe it as hell, but
right. So any non-demon life is going to suffer horrible and eternal torment. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Buffy tells Willow, you should please try the curse. And again, Xander's blah blah blah. And Kendra jumps in and says, I agree with Xander. And she's just,
you don't
know.
It's heart-wrenching, that fight in that library between them. It's like,
but she has an excellent point. She tells them, what if I'm too late? What if he kills me? We still need this as a possibility for one less thing. Whether or not, like she says, at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I have to do. But this is like plan B or a backup. And she tells us, she's like, Willow, you might be our only hope if I lose. And Willow's like, I don't want to be the only hope. Can we please have another hope? So then Kendra pulls out, the sword that was actually, so it's a second sword that was blessed by the same knight who slew the demon. and
Slay or
so
sleep.
slew the demon. So then, Willow says, look, I need about a day, to really get this going. And she's like, but I need an orb of Thessala. And we know what happened to the last orb of Thessala.
Yeah.
It was smashed. So Giles is like, I have one of those. I've been using it as a paperweight. And he presents an
Which
orb
is
of
kind of
Thessala.
a throwback, isn't it, to the earlier episodes when Jenny went to look for the Oliver Thessler. And he tells
Yeah,
a
most
story
people get it
about
as
about the
I've been
hipsters
using it as a
buying them.
paperweight.
Yeah.
It's so good. So, we're back to the mansion, and you see a couple vampires dragging this man into the room, and Angel recites, he says, I will drink the blood will wash over me, and I will be cleansed. I will be worthy to free Acathla as I ascend, as I become. And he bites the guy, and then he has the blood on his hand, and he's like, I am everything I've done has led me here, and grabs the sword, and you see a whole light show. But then we jump to a flashback again, so they're hopping us all over the place, and this
Whistler.
time, this is great though. This is Manhattan 1996, and we meet Whistler, who again we will see a few times before these series, both Angel and Buffy, are
And again,
done.
no spoilers, but again, that character turns into another character when it changes to a different franchise.
Yeah. And
It's the same premise. Whistler is definitely inspired the Doyle character, and that's all I'll say with no spoiler to when we get to that.
right, I agree with you, and we will have a good talk about that when that happens. So Angel at this point looks and smells like a homeless man. You could tell he's literally been feeding on rats because now he has a soul, and he can't do it. So this man walks up to him and tells him that he's disgusting and has the stench of death. And the actor's name is Max Perlich. He plays Whistler. Whistler knows he's a vampire. He knows he's not going to bite him. He knows he has a soul. He knows a lot about Angel and what's going on. He tells him that like a rat a day is no way to live, and that the butcher shops are giving away more blood than you can eat in a day. And you got to get your shit together, but you got to want to, because you can't keep
Yeah,
looking
you
and
gotta live in
smelling
the
like
real
that.
world.
Yeah. And so he says, look, I want to show you something. You could be somebody as if you wanted to, or you could be a sewer rat. Real part of society, sewer rat, whatever you want. So um, he takes Angel to Los Angeles, 1996, Los Angeles, California. The car's got the blacked out windows, which I
Uh,
love. It's so reminiscent of like Near Dark and all these other great things.
yeah, it is.
Um, and Angel's, being all creepery, and he sees Buffy for the very first time coming out of class, and she's, being Buffy back in the day, careless and clueless and sucking on her lollipop, and she sits down, says goodbye to her friends, call me, call me, and
It's so fluffy.
it's so Buffy. And this man walks up to her. The actor is Richard Reel. We know him as Merrick, which from the Buffy movie, Merrick was Buffy's
Yep.
first
Yep.
watcher. He tells her, I need to speak with you. You have a destiny, blah, blah, blah. Chosen one. She thinks he's crazy. But we don't go through all that we went through in the movie. So we jump and we fast forward to the first time Buffy kills a vampire. Merrick
Yep.
takes her out to prove to her that vampires are real in the cemetery, which again, we know from the movie. And Angel, you see watching from the bushes, which again, that's just, he seems to be such a good creeper. And I love that she has to stake him twice, because she does it in the stomach, not the heart, and then then does it again in the heart. And
Yeah, it's
vampire
great.
explodes, and she squeals, and Merrick was just showing her the kind of power she had. I do love when she flipped the vampire and then went like, "Oh, I did that!" Like that was really cool for
Yeah,
her.
it's kind of
Um,
the origin, as you say, and it runs on the backstory of the first movie.
Yeah, and then we even go to, because this also happened in the movie, we kind of see Angel watching Buffy at home fighting with Joyce and saying, you had your father and I worried and blah, 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 blah. And then you kind of cut to, you hear her parents fighting, and this is right before they broke up. And we know that Buffy's troubles were one of the leading causes, or at least in her mind, of the parents'
Yeah,
breakup.
How she thinks, yeah.
And Angel tells Whistler he wants to become somebody. He's made up his mind, and they have a lot of work to do together. So we owe a lot to Whistler, and we'll see him later.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi, George. We jump back to Akathla. Angel finishes the ceremony, grabs the sword, big old light show, and the sword does not budge. And, Spike, someone wasn't worthy from the background, which is, of course,
he's so great.
I love him so much. We're in school, and in the hallway, you see this figure, all cloaked, walking through the hallways, and you're like, And Buffy is taking her final. They're in the classroom. And this figure comes in the classroom, removes the hood, and says, "Tonight, sundown, you will come to him. You will come to him or more will die tonight."
Yeah.
And then she bursts
Very
into flames
dramatic.
because she is a vampire. She is in daylight. So this happens in the middle of class, and it always amazes me how people are all so clueless that they still don't understand. But
Yeah.
But we made big strides in this episode. So, in the library, Kendra wants to go with Buffy to fight Angel. But Buffy asks her to stay, that she needs her to protect them. And Willow needs to work on the curse. And if Angel is fighting Buffy, then he's not killing anybody else. So let's get this ritual thing. He can't be doing it if we're. So this is adorable. Kendra gives Buffy her lucky spike.
Oh, it is adorable.
Mr.
So
Pointy.
adorable moment.
Mr. Pointy, which Buffy keeps forever, as we know of Mr. Pointy.
Yeah, Mr. Pointy.
And Buffy says, "Remind me to get you a stuffed animal," because
I've got
really
feels for that, definitely.
So Buffy is off. George, do we come here? Being weird. Buffy's off in search of Angel. They meet up at the cemetery with his hello lover, which is just awesome. And they start fighting. Willow starts doing the spell. Giles is reading in Latin. Willow is repeating in English. And Cordelia's working that incense, man. I gotta say, she's really trying to become a part of this.
Yeah, definitely.
At some point, Buffy realizes that Angel's stalling. And at this moment, the vampires bust in on the Scoobies. And I got to give Xander credit. He tells Cordelia, run. Like, he just shoves her out the door.
He does play the hero, definitely, yet again in this episode. He's
he gets a broken arm out of this. Willow gets trapped under the shelves of books. And when Buffy realizes what's going on, she runs back to try to save her friends. And then this scene will always get me. Drusilla walks into the library and she's in total control, and the other vampires
she is.
back off, and she's fighting with Kendra, and they're both holding their own, but then Drusilla
puts the whammy on.
Slaps the whammy on Kendra. Be in me. Be in my eyes. And she totally hypnotizes her, and then she slits her throat. Night night. And then she says, "Let's get what we came here for," and they grab Giles and take him away. When Buffy gets there, she sees Kendra is dead. It's a very moving scene, like this whole slow motion of everybody.
That slow-mo in the blue jacket.
Yeah.
Again. It's so one of the most. I think they use it in season 3. The
picks
trailer. Up. Yeah, I'm sure it's used in season 3 as a clip. I'm sure for like the intro.
Yes.
There's that scene when she turns and runs into the school and she goes around the corner in the slow-mo. It's like iconic to me. Yeah. The second it came on, I got chills. And I was like, yes,
so moving.
Yeah.
And, she's leaning over her dead body, and all you hear is freeze, and you see the arm with the gun, and you get a to be continued. And I actually remember the first time I watched this. It was like I had to wait a whole week.
I've literally wrote the same thing down here, and I've put, can you remember having to wait an entire week to know what happened next?
100%. So that is the end of my part of becoming part 1, and I turn it over to my lovely co-host for her additions.
Right. So this week, I have a couple of little things. Obviously, I think anybody who's a Buffy fan, if you don't, and you're kind of watching all these for the first time with us, we appreciate that. But these were both written and directed by Joss Whedon, both of this episode and the next one, as the two-parter, which was amazing, I thought. There was no actual music in this, and I feel because in 2 we come to a different level with the music, which we'll get to. I feel they left this very much. It's a very back and forth episode. We, as you say, we flash in and out of different time zones, different relationships, and we see Darla the first time as Darla. But obviously, the first time we actually saw Darla, which was in the pilot, she wasn't actually Darla, or she was. We're not sure because Angel wasn't focused on her at that point, if you get what I mean. And now we see her as a flashback and who she was. I think it's great that we see also Drew, as you say, how fragile she is in this episode as who she was before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's definitely this and the next episode give us a massive insight into how Angel was Angel, how all the relationships were formed.
Yeah, really quickly too. Like they managed to just
it's
give
one
you
after the other of it. This is why this is like this. This is why this is like this. This is what happened in the past. They kind of catch you up in 2.6 seconds in this episode and the next one.
Mm-hmm.
So everything, as you say, with the Slayer flashbacks, the Whistler element that then comes back to why Angel is where he is, and we find out that he's been following her for a very, very long time. You know, couple of little fun facts. Himri High that they use is actually a backlot at Universal.
Really?
Yeah, and it was also used for the clock tower in the Back to the Future films, the same lot.
Ah, that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty cool. Pretty cool little thing. Other than that, I think I'll only say that because so much happens in this episode, we're being set up for the next one we get onto.
Yep. Yeah.
A little fact that I don't know if it means anything. So we talked about how Ed Sheeran had done the song Bad Habits because he was pretty much obsessed with Buffy.
Right.
Yeah, this is odd. Whether this is relevant or not, I don't know. I've seen Angel a million times in these backstories, and he's Irish. Now, in what I'm reading here, it came from Galway, and it said it in the precursor of the initial titles. You have the song Galway Girl.
Ah.
And I'm kind of finding little things now. I know it's off topic, but Ed Sheeran seems to be a massive fan, and I'm finding little things that go along that he's either used a word, a name, a premise, something. I mean, Bad Habits. I think you listen to it as well, and that literally talks about Spike and Buffy. Again, in this episode, I think Spike starts to come into his own as we go into the next one.
I think the next
one. And as you said about favorites. Jack McGee.
Yes.
We'll do a also known from. He was in Backdraft, Lethal Weapon 2, Showgirls, Basic Instinct, The Doors, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, Casino, The Fugitive, Fried Green Tomatoes at Whistle Stop Cafe, and Waterworld.
Aw. Someone was just telling us that they loved Waterworld. Anyway.
Oh, God.
I know.
Do I know them?
No, somebody from the chat. I think we had this discussion. I don't remember who. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I had. There's no music this week, but that's what I kind of had. I mean, it's a roller coaster episode.
Oh, yes. Yes. And the next one, which we can jump right into episode 2 because
absolutely.
It is. So again, season 2, episode 22, Becoming Part 2. Again, it starts up right where the other one left off with the freeze, and the cops are arresting Buffy. Xander is unconscious, and actually that was the first time Buffy even realized that he was there because she was so caught up in everything. Snyder walks in, tells the cops, she's trouble. You better, get a handle on her. And as they're reading her rights, she knocks him out and runs from the cops. And that's the moment where Snyder actually looks afraid for a moment, because she would kill him if she wanted to. If she was
I've
half the
just
bad
got about
person that
4
he
comments
feels.
at once just now. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
Clint says, "Showgirls, he's a serious actor." Yeah, whatever. You know how I feel about Showgirls. Nicole loves Waterworld. Oh, Nicole, bless her.
I thought it was Nicole. I didn't want to call her out, but I mean, I didn't hate
Nicole,
it.
I
I
love
didn't
you,
hate it, but
but
that's a story for another day.
Jesus. Right, sorry,
So,
carry on.
no, that's okay. So, Buffy, you see Buffy sneaking into the hospital. She needs to know how her friends are. And then Xander comes up behind her and they embrace. And he takes her to see Willow, and Willow is still unconscious. And, he says, look, they don't know if she's going to wake up. It's here, it's there. Cordelia actually feels guilty for running, which is such growth on her part.
Yeah, she grows so much.
This is the same woman that gave her car to her grandmother because she was afraid that Angel was going to kill her.
She'd let him in a car before.
So stupid. We see
Brilliant.
Giles waking up and Angel just staring at him, and that he's in for a rough time here. The cops are questioning Joyce. They're so misogynistic and rude. Basically, your daughter has a history of violence, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
She's like, there's no way my
Not
daughter
buying
killed
it, are they?
anybody. We see Buffy running in Giles' house looking for him, and she runs into Whistler. And yeah, George agrees. She's not amused by Whistler at all.
No.
She's just not. And he's kind of lucky that she's not killing him. But he does tell her the sword is not enough. You have to know how to use it. And that as she walks out, there are the cops again. They're trying to arrest her. They pull a gun on her, and she looks, concerned, because these are humans. And who should come to her rescue but Spike, of all people?
It's beautiful.
It's the best. It's that moment. And Spike basically says, we got to team up and go against Angel. And she's like, do you think I was literally born yesterday? And, his theory, and I agree with him. He's like, we talk a big game, but we actually like this world.
Yeah.
And what Angel is looking to do is literally destroy this world that I'm actually having fun in. And, she's not buying it. And he said, look, Angel has your watcher, and he's torturing him. And I want to stop Angel. I want to save the world. It's kind of like if you watch Good Omens with Aziraphale. He likes the
Still
sushi,
haven't yet.
Oh, you need to. But
no, it's on my list.
He does tell her, he's like, what did he say? He's like, it's got dog racing and Manchester United, and you've got people, and I love it.
It's so beautiful.
It's what did he call them? A Happy Meal, walking Happy Meal with legs or something?
Walking Happy Meals with legs.
Yeah, so funny. But he says, look, there's one catch. Drusilla leaves with me. Like, we leave, you will never see us again.
As always, he wants true. You know?
And she's like, that's bullshit. But he's like, no, that's what's going to happen. So we're back at the hospital. Xander's actually been really sweet, talking to Willow, trying to get her to wake up. You're my best friend. He tells her he loves her, and she begins to her, and she wakes up and she says Oz's name, which is
really sweet as well.
Which is really sweet. And Oz is, of course, there. He walks in, and she asks him, she's like, is my head big? My head feels really big. It doesn't feel normal size. It feels big. We jump around a lot. Still Angel torturing Giles. He's completely sadistic.
Yeah.
Buffy and Spike are walking back towards her house, and Joyce pulls up in the driveway, and she jumps out, and she's like, where have you been? And blah, 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 blah. And then a vampire attacks Joyce. And Buffy kills the vampire and then is forced to tell Joyce the truth about
it's just
vampire, which is a great moment.
The whole exchange of this, and I know this is, I'm going to say it now. I know this is a Spike and Buffy and Angel episode, but Spike's whole character development in this way, you totally get him from a different perspective, and you see
You
the
know,
interactions between him, Buffy, and Joyce in
so
the
good.
whole thing is
Probably my favorite
absolutely
thing of the whole
stunning.
show. Yeah. And I know at one point it was really funny because she's on the phone. Because she does tell when Joyce is like, I need to know, police are looking for you. She tells them that they're in a punk band together. But
And how great would that be?
that was so good.
You know, if
So
she was a
Buffy's
drummer
on
and
the
he was a
phone.
singer, what the dream!
Buffy's on the phone with Willow and Xander, and you just see Joyce and Spike sitting in the living room,
So
making
great.
small talk, which is hysterical. And she's like, "You look familiar. Have we met?" And he's like, "Yeah, you hit me with an axe once. Get the hell away from my daughter." And I
It
was
was
peeing myself.
just beautiful.
I think they were so cute. So Drew, well, she tells Spike, like, Drusilla killed Kendra. I'm not letting her live. And she's like, Drew Badge Slayer, like, and then he's like, oh, wrong room, maybe read the room. But
Yeah, it is good.
and then Joyce with her, well, have you tried not being the
Oh,
Slayer? Which is, so I
again,
love that she
Griffin
knows and then
Sutherland.
somehow goes back later to not knowing, but that's jumping the gun. Joyce doesn't believe Buffy. And Buffy tells her, like, open your eyes, all the fights, all the things, all the years that you were washing blood out of my clothes. Like, did you not think something was going on? And they get in a big fight, and Buffy pushes Joyce, and just not terribly hard, but it's a moment. And
Yeah, it's definitely a
she
moment.
goes to leave, and Joyce says to her, if you leave this house, don't ever come back. And there's that moment where they look at each other and Buffy just shuts the door. I mean, there's nothing, she has no choice. This is for destiny. So Willow insists on trying the curse again. And they're like, look, you're too weak. Like, this is not okay. It was hard enough before. And she's like, this is my resolve face. You've seen my resolve face. You know what this means. Resolve.
Yeah, it's cute.
And back to Angel torturing Giles. Giles really is a badass, but you could tell he's at the end.
Yeah, he's getting there.
And so he's like, all right, I'll tell you. He's like, in order
So
to
good.
perform the ritual, you have to perform it in a tutu. And then he's like, hee hee. So
It's so good.
then, Angel's going to kill him, and Spike actually stops him from killing him. And even Angel's like, why are you being the level-headed one? He's like, well, if you kill him, you're not going to get what you need. So, like, don't do it. And Buffy goes to get her sword from the library, the one that Kendra had brought, and Snyder comes in, and he is just in total douchebag mode, and
It's
with
just
the
horrid,
utmost
isn't he?
of the glee, he tells her that she is expelled. So now she's lost her home, she's lost her friend, she's lost her watcher, she's lost her school. And there's that moment where she lets Snyder know, where he says something like, I bet you never had a single date in high school. And he's like, what does that have to do with anything? But,
Yeah, it's just,
the thing is,
this
she
is a
knows
great
she
bit.
can kill him. He knows she can kill him. And so we go back to poor Giles, and just Drusilla's playing with him in his brain. And she does her whole, be in me moment and hypnotizes him and figures out what he wants, and he sees her now as Jenny, and he tells her to see with her heart, and he's like, have you told Angel about the ritual? And he said, no, we have to keep him away from Acathla. And she's like, why? Is he close to figuring it out? And he says, later. And she does get him to tell her that Angel's blood is the key. So then they start making out, and it's ridiculous.
She
You just
won't
look
stop
up,
making out.
and you see Spike and Angel just watching her, and they're like, and she's like, sorry, I was in the moment. But so Buffy goes back to Giles' house and finds Whistler again, and Whistler tells her the same thing that we just found out, that Angel's
Yep.
blood will open the door, but his blood will also close the door. So that's what he meant by saying you need to know how to use this as well. Um, Xander meets Buffy at the old mansion. She stops Buffy and he's going to tell her that Willow is working on the spell because that's what Willow told her to say. And he just says, Willow told me to tell you to kick his ass. And, you're like, oh, you son of a bitch. But
I literally wrote, this is when Xander fucks up.
yeah, I mean, it wouldn't have changed anything, to be honest with you.
It wouldn't, but it comes back to bite him in the ass.
Right, exactly. So Angelus is performing the ritual again. Willow is on her end working on the curse with Oz and Cordelia. I love that Oz is getting involved.
It's nice. It is a regular now.
Yeah, Angel's cutting his hand as Buffy comes in and she says, hello, lover, the same way he did, which I love. And Angel's like, oh, you really think you can take us all on? And she says, no, I don't. And then at that same moment, Spike hits him from behind and Drusilla loses her shit, first of all. And Spike just keeps beating Angel and Buffy starts taking on all the other vampires. And then Drusilla, she's so mad, she tackles Spike.
It's a great fight, I'll be honest.
They're fighting. He does knock her out for a minute. Xander gets Giles out of the building. He thinks it's a trick. He's like, you're just showing me what I want to see. And he's like, then why would they make you see me? And he's like, good point. That was pretty smart on Xander's point. Like, this isn't a trick. They'd show you anybody else. Angel grabs the sword with the bloody hand and pulls it from Akathla's chest, which is not so good. And
no,
Buffy has a sword. No, it's not so good. And they are sword fighting. And, at that moment, you see Willow completing the spell and the magic just takes over her. And then she just starts spouting out languages she doesn't speak. And it's super cool. Spike, again, knocks out Drusilla and just takes her out of the room.
Actually,
looks back.
He choked
her out. Yeah.
Puts a sleep hold on her and choked her out.
Which again, there's no breath. I'm not sure how that worked. But
this comes up a lot in the first
comes up a lot. Yeah, we'll have to revisit that one at another time.
Yeah, I feel that'll be a special investigation.
Yeah, and he looks back and he sees Angel and Buffy fighting, and he's like, God, he's gonna kill her. And he's like, no, right, and he walks away anyway because he doesn't give a shit. But Buffy gets her second wind. I love that scene where he's like, you've got nothing. What take away this. And he's like, what do you got? And he goes to stab her and she just grabs this thing.
In her hands like that. It's an iconic moment. And again, we revisit it.
Yes, exactly. And there's some great stunt work in that fight. She kicks Angel's
absolutely.
ass. You see Spike and Drusilla driving off in the same car with the painted.
What an iconic thing when he's driving with the one hand and he drags her across the sea and he's just giving it with one hand the entire thing, and it's just great.
It's just such a cool moment. And then as Buffy is literally about to kill Angel, you see his soul being restored, and he doesn't remember any of it. And it's like this moment, Buffy, and they hug and then they kiss, and she's just beside herself, and she tells
very dramatic.
Shut your eyes for me, and she kisses him with his eyes closed, and then she shoves that sword right through him. And there's that great iconic moment of him just with the.
She knows she's going to do it from the second even she can tell that he's changed back. She's still doing it. The second she sees that portal's open, there is no doubt on her face, and she's like, she calms herself. It's pretty epic, really.
Yeah, it shows her strength and how she's become. And
absolutely.
Because
and
that
how
vortex
she is meant to be the Slayer.
Yep, and she needs to close it. So
Clint says, red hair on the left, blue hair on the right. It's like looking through 3D glasses.
Oh, I love it. We're coming right at you. So the portal closes with Angel getting sucked inside and the world is saved. You see Buffy head home. You see Joyce go into Buffy's room later and realize that all her clothes are gone. Buffy is gone. She's taken her stuff and left. We've got Sarah McLachlan in the background, which Full of Grace is one of those songs I love, which I'll let you talk about later. But the Scoobies are all talking about how nobody's seen Buffy and that, they go through maybe the spell worked. Maybe it didn't work. Maybe they're together. Maybe they're not. Maybe she needs some time.
Maybe she's stealing.
She, they think maybe it worked because Cordelia said, the orb did that cool glow
Yeah.
thing. And
Willow says she felt something.
and Xander said maybe it wasn't in time and she had to kill him. And they're speculating that she'll probably be back soon because school is starting. They don't know that she's been expelled.
No.
And she is watching from a distance, and she gets on a bus and leaves Sunnydale. And it is a pretty epic moment.
Yeah, the whole sign at the end as well. You are now leaving Sunnydale. Please come back
Yes.
soon. It's like, and I remember at this point I think we were like 7 months, maybe even 8, 10 months in between seasons
Oh,
before we
at the
got
time,
another
yeah.
season. And I feel we're coming up very, very much at this point to the writers' strikes, which are again going on at the moment. But at that time, I think you remember, we had a halt, I think, for a very long time of a lot of these seasons. I think we're coming up to this now. And I remember waiting so much for the next sort of third season start to go, why? What happened?
It was 4 months in between this episode and season 1.
But you've got to remember, I live in
At
England.
least on our end. I don't know about with you
Yeah,
guys.
well, in England, it was we were behind you, but also we had bigger gaps in between seasons, especially in the early days. And then I think it was only when we got to like season 5 that it started to marry up a little bit, where I think I was a week behind, maybe, but not until
that's
then.
got to be frustrating, I'll tell you.
Oh, it was. It was. I mean, to the point where we would try and find it on streaming sites before it actually was on, because it was too. I mean, we had no social media or such then.
Right.
So it wasn't
So
like anybody could really spoil it, but there was still internet access. So you would maybe try and find the episodes or get an episode from someone or get someone to download it and rip you a copy on a DVD.
Yeah, I remember those days. Actually, for me, it was probably VHS at the time.
Yeah, it probably was actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it probably was. Yeah, I think it was.
So
we're about on the cusp of that, I feel, at when we
actually,
get
this
to
was
sort of 3 and
98.
4.
So 98.
Yeah, so I would say we're on the cusp of it.
Fun times. What else you got for
We've had mini discs maybe before that and things like that, probably.
Maybe.
Yeah, so the music from this week, as you said, Full of Grace by Sarah McLachlan. Now, I'll be honest, she's not very famous in our country. I wouldn't have known her unless it was for this. Yeah, she's not someone that is known in this country as a musician. I guess and this episode, believe it or not, Christoph Beck's Scott won an Emmy for this episode for Close Your Eyes.
Oh.
And that was for the whole Buffy and Angel scene before Sarah McLachlan. And if you remember, during it, we've got that the Buffy reprise that we hear a lot in the sort of tense moments. That you know which one I mean? Yeah, that is his as well. And yeah, he won an Emmy for this episode for the musical score.
Very cool. I love that.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. There's also a track on the same album that Full of Grace is on by Sarah McLachlan, called Angel. Yes. Whether it's a coincidence or not.
It's a coincidence, but
right.
I love that album. I love Sarah McLachlan. I actually
not someone I'm familiar with. I'll be perfectly honest. As I say, not someone who is recognized. I don't think in our country.
I get that. When I was, so it's got to be 1992, 93, 94, somewhere around there. And my friend Steve Cohn took me to see a band called the Chieftains. And I had never even heard of the Chieftains. I mean, I'd heard of them, but I didn't know anything about them. But they're just a fun sort of older jam band. And Sarah McLachlan, who wasn't anybody at the time, opened up for them. And I was like 4th row, and it was amazing. And he went and he gave me all the, like he burned me tapes or CDs or whatever of her music, and I became obsessed.
Made you a mix.
And he made me a mix. And I have every one of the things she's ever put. I actually just saw her in concert like last year.
Wow.
Again.
Yeah, as I say, not someone who was
5 times.
I'll have to check it out. Other points.
I mean, it's the music you want to hear when you want to like slit your wrists and like.
Yeah,
you see, my my mom's husband years ago, so this is in the 90s, he had heard she did a song called I Will Remember You. I will remember you. Anyway, my mother's husband liked the song, and he's like, oh, that's someone you listen to, right? And I said, yeah. So I loaned him all of the CDs, and he's like, he gave them back. He's like, I want to kill myself. Like they use
Yeah.
her in the
Yeah,
advertisements for like the abused
I
puppies.
don't tend to listen to depressive music. I must be, you know what I'm like. If I
She's
have
just
an 80s jam
ethereal.
or something really metal, I'm not really. Or a
Yeah,
Fleetwood Mac jam.
try her though. She's beautiful. It's
Yeah, I'll
and
have a look.
Canadian,
Oh, we
as it
do
were.
like a Canadian.
We do like a good Canadian.
We do. But yeah, a couple of points of Snyder in this episode. Yet again, being an absolute bell end through the entire episode. He's just hateful. And
His
there's a moment
joy.
I want to mention where after Buffy's been expelled and he goes up to the phone and he says, oh, I've got good news for the mayor. Precursors, we've got this coming.
Foreshadowing.
No spoilers, but obviously if anybody's watched that episode, it meant something. You know,
Yeah.
that's to come.
The mayor.
Definitely the whole Willow's first kind of thing in magic, you know, where we're seeing that there's something that she can do that nobody else can do.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the whole moment in the hospital bed where she's sat and she's looking down and, you know, all of a sudden she's in full Latin, head up. You know, it's absolutely...
Yeah.
I feel this episode, again, for Spike and Buffy's exchanges and Joyce, it's joyful. You see a different Spike from what we've seen. He was a sarcastic villain. Yes, he had style. But at this point, he's interacting with the enemy and telling his story like a normal person, as you say. He's saying it's walking Happy Meals. Well, why would I want this to change?
Right.
You know?
And it makes sense.
Great.
You know, in theory, everybody wants the world to end until it does. And then you're like, well, now what?
Yeah. And he wants his Drew back. It's a big indication as well as what we find as we go on, that Drew is the most important thing to him pretty much most of the time until that's not.
Mm-hmm. And even, you know, honestly, and we won't jump the gun on this, but even when she's not with him, you know, he's still obsessed with her. He'll always be obsessed with her.
Absolutely. And I'm not going to mention the scene you're on about, but I guarantee I know which scene you're on about where they're not together anymore and they actually hate each other, but he's still obsessed.
He's obsessed, yeah.
It involves some kind of sticky demon, is all I'm going to say.
I was thinking that.
I knew you were.
Yeah, no, he's great in this. He really is.
It comes into his own and the whole driving away thing. And it's like, I think I was definitely personally remember, as good as it was for the Angel and Buffy drama and the whole Scooby Gang dynamic and everything, all the drama and she's gone and all the rest of it. It was like, for me, it was like, I need to see more of Spike. It was like, oh my God, this character is so cool. And I think being English,
Spike's first episode where he runs down the welcome to Sunnydale sign. So it's kind of fitting.
Yes, it is. It's like it's gone full circle.
Mm-hmm.
But you want it back straight away. It's like it's not going to be the same now because we need to see what else. Now we've seen like another side of him as well as the evil side. You know, it was one of them for me. I think, as I said, being English and just, as you said, the whole speech about Manchester United and all the rest of it. And it's like, I'll be honest, I will say, most people who support Manchester United don't come from Manchester. I'll just tell you that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. But it's nice to hear that in an American TV show like it was for us.
Right.
I mean, you got the token English person in a lot of things like in Fraser, you know, there was token English person, etc.
And again, this is, jumping to a future episode, but Tallulah Rasa, where he's like, you named me Randy Giles.
Yeah.
Why not need a Shag Giles? But yeah, no. So I do love when they throw the little
sorry, I'm starting a line of your life flashed before your eyes. Cup of tea, nearly got a shag, cup of tea.
I actually had that on a mug that my friend got me. Oh, it's actually a
Adam says, whoa, did I stumble upon a supermodel channel? You did, Adam. You're totally right.
Well, clearly. It was stunning.
Voguing.
Adam is such a good boy today. Adam.
That's what I had.
Adam's son went to his first school day.
I saw. Adorable.
So proud. So that is our episodes then. I feel like now next week we're gonna do a little early. We're gonna do 1 p.m.
Yes,
Eastern
we're going,
Standard Time,
6
p.m.
my time. Yep.
UK time, because I have to pick my nephew up at 2:30. So what time is it when you have to go to the dentist? 2:30. 2:30.
Of course, 2:30.
So
See what you did there.
2:30. So we really appreciate you guys. Claire, you want to give anybody some shout outs?
Just the usuals. I will shout out the wonderful Perfect Turd podcast, Joe and Lamar, who are amazing, awesomely supportive. I was actually chatting to him about what we talked about last week about his toilet habits the other night. I said that we mentioned him. He was very proud that we've mentioned him, and he's spreading the word, and he's never going to be ashamed, as we discussed the other night. And I told him, good on you.
Good on you. Yeah.
That was great. And I'm going to be catching up with them soon. And having a little chat, because I haven't for ages. I love those two. Also, our favourites, Hammersville Horror Podcast, horror movies of the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and Scream Until You Like It. Also, I'd like to shout out Dampires. I say it wrong. Dampires, which is the band that I was doing some merch for this week. The awesome metal band. Check them out on Facebook and Instagram.
Will you put a link for them so we can?
Yep, I shall pop that in the description when the link goes up. As long as everything, as well as everything we have tonight, all the different little bits and pieces, all the songs about the Emmy nomination for this, all the actors we talked about tonight, and anything else that we talked about will be in the link in the description.
And we want to thank Mr. Richard Bacon for
being always,
Mr. Richard Bacon.
My long-suffering husband, for all his technical help every week. I'm putting all the links in the description.
And you guys can't see it from there, but he's completely naked on the other end of that camera.
He is. He's completely naked behind it now. Always.
Yeah, always.
I'll show you when you're not live.
Okay, cool. All right, my loves. Well, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will see you next week for season 3, episode 1 and 2.
Start of a new season.
Can't wait. All right, love you.
Love yous.
Bye.